Hey everyone, how you doing? This is the presentation on the new RF gun capabilities in Paladin. This is intended for our customers. The RF gun has been around for ages and it just got a facelift, and I know that it's a popular subject because we have a lot of people attending today. So thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it. This is kind of an early rollout. It's we're working the kinks out when it comes to rolling out, but we wanted to get it out there, let everybody use it as quick as possible. This has been a long time coming. It's going to put a little bit of intelligence into the ordering process and in the actual gun. I mean, we've got the intelligence built in on the Paladin side, but now you can do it from the aisles. So it's enhancing the market-driven inventory management aspect of our system, and hopefully it should take some of the guesswork out of ordering and should make it easier and better for you. So I'd love to get your feedback and your thoughts. So feel free to email me. So let's go ahead and get started. I am going to record this so you will be able to see it in the future, probably by the end of today. If you go to portal.paladinpos.com/webinars, it should be the top of the list. All right, so here are the subject matters we're going to talk about. So we're going to talk a little bit about the product itself, the WER 7000 series RF terminal, RF standing for radio frequency, of course, how it works, capability and uses. Those three topics, we'll be done with that in probably a minute. And then we're going to get into the 15-line enhancements, setting up the dynamic prompts. So the system will be prompting you to help suggesting what you need to fulfill the demand when it comes to ordering, and how to deal with some of the outs, and how to deal with the overstock, and how to deal with non-movers. Those are all going to be in the gun itself. So we'll talk about setting up those dynamic promotions or prompts, activating the 15-line display and dynamic prompts, signing on with the 15-line display. I will be giving screenshots just because it's a lot more practical than if I had a gun here and I was pointing at the camera. Then choosing the RF unit 15-line modes, what the different modes do. First one is we're going to look at overriding and appending stock on hand modes, and then we'll get into building and working PO, the clearance feature, low stock on hand warning, suggested order, suggestions, shrinkage, some of the new features as it relates to receiving POs, and then the extra messages and warnings about gross margin, return on investment, and waste. So about the gun, you've all seen it. You all, for the most part, probably use it today. So it says it has a range of about 3.5 miles. That's not exactly correct. If you've got thick walls or a lot of metal or concrete in your walls, it might make it difficult. You might need a repeater on the other side of that, and you can put multiple antennas or base stations around your store if need be. Some of the highlights include a 15-line screen that we have not taken advantage of in the past, but we are going to now. That's the whole reason for this webinar. It's rugged, it's highly reliable. We don't get a lot of these back for repair, and it comes with rechargeable batteries. How it works: connects to Paladin in real time. Changes are instantaneous. There are various optional settings that you can turn on or turn off, like requiring a login, for example. It's nice to have accountability of who does what with the gun. You can do that. Bin tag or item tag label settings, so it can automatically produce a bin tag. And then you can hide cost and or retail on the screen. All right, some of the capabilities and uses. It's good for reviewing your inventory, cycle counting. You know, that's also part of reviewing your inventory. Ordering and receiving, managing retail prices, generating bin tags, assigning location codes automatically, as well as assigning alternate part numbers. And we are featuring the new dynamic prompts and 15-line display option. That's what we're talking about today. Some of the benefits: it's just easily review and maintain your largest investment, which is your inventory in real time. All right, moving on to the 15-line enhancement. So this functionality introduces dynamic prompts. So not only are we increasing the amount of information on the screen, but we're giving you these proactive prompts to help you manage your inventory ordering. These prompts are both visual and audio, and they're warnings and advice, basically as you are scanning items with the gun. All current functions of the RF gun are still in place. It's still the same gun. It will still work. It's still going to work with the 6-line display. And clients absolutely that are using the 6-line functionality, you have an option to retain the 6-line and just keep doing what you're doing, no problem. Or you can make these changes that I'll be showing you momentarily on how to increase it to the 15-line in dynamic prompts. So setting up dynamic prompts, you've seen under the File Setup Company tab, there's some new additional items here under the RF 15-line display options, and those are item overstock, shrinkage, and low on stock. The item overstock prompt is determined by the client entering a percentage value in the overstock warning threshold field, which you'll see as the last item on this list before the color display mode. Voice prompts are emitted based on thresholds that you set in these dynamic prompts. The shrinkage prompt is given when there is an excessive loss. Paladin sets the following default values that the client can override. You have full access to override these. We set a dollar value of 25. We set a time span of 180 days to go back 180 days. And we look at items that are about 35% overstocked. So the low stock on hand threshold prompt appears when stock needs are below the expected quantity. And then note this, items not performing can be considered for clearance. So clearance is a new feature that we've rolled out recently in our Paladin system. It's under Paladin Insight. You've probably seen it. If you look at the dials when you first go into inventory and you click on any one of the dials on the magnifying glass, it will actually show you another tab in there called clearance, and it's a really cool feature. There's a video on that as well as knowledge base article if you want to read more about it. There's also additional information displayed. No voice prompt is given, but we have a new prompt called wasted. This is determined when investment dollars are tied up in inventory that are not selling. That represents wasted opportunity. And then also gross margin return on investment. It's a measurement of your store's investment performance. And Paladin also follows the ADA section 508 compliance for the visually impaired, so you can change the background colors. Instead of the standard yellow and orange, you can change it to black and white. So those of you that are impaired visually, you can probably see that with better contrast. All right, let's get into it. So activating the 15-line display and dynamic prompts. You can do this at any time. You can do it right now if you have the gun right there. I'm just going to walk you through the screens. You can re-watch this from the recording and start and stop it as you set these up. Now, as we're setting up the 15-line display, the one thing it's not going to do is load the audio files. We have some new audio files. The old audio still works when it says location and quantity and sell, but we've added some additional ones, as you know, up to 4 new audio messages that actually pop up, and it emits a sound that tells you a warning or a suggestion or advice. Those are going to be rolled out over the next several weeks. So it's a planned event that we are pulling together now, and it won't be long before we get those audio prompts in there. But for the time being, you're going to see it on the screen. So how do you change those? Let's go and take a look. So when you turn on your RF gun, you're going to see this sign on screen that says sign on setup, one-way mode, RF site survey. You're going to select number 2, setup. So we're going into the setup module. You have access to this, very easy to do. Select number 2, and then you're going to select number 6, LCD settings. When you select number 6, you're going to be presented with the following screen. This screen shows the LCD options. The very first item, item number 1, you can toggle through 4-line, 6-line, and off. Right now it should be set to 6-line, so the next time you toggle it, it should go to off. Set it to off. That means that the 15-line mode will be in place when you set that to off. Now also to maintain the integrity with the ADA compliancy and making sure that colors can go from yellow and orange to or yellow and maroon to black and white, make sure that that 6 has that slash in it, that backward slash. All right, it should be defaulted to that, but if not, you can change it to that. All right, and now you're in 15 display mode, 15-line display mode. Now at this point, you want to sign on to the system. So let's sign on with 15 display. Hey, look at that. It looks really similar because it is. The same 6 items will appear: override stock on hand, append to stock on hand, build a working PO, receive stock, receive PO, non-EDI, as well as inbound receiving. So these are the 6 modes available. After selecting the mode, the screen opens to set the location. Before scanning items, you need to set a location. Now, you don't have to set a location, but for those of you who have location codes put in the system, the advantage here is if you're actually going out to do a cycle count on a particular 4-foot section, you want to go ahead and put that location code in, so every item you scan will automatically be assigned to that location code. Now, if you've already got location codes in the system and you don't want to mess with them, just hit enter and blow right by location. That's fine to do as well. Now, at any time when you're moving from one 4-foot section or 2-foot section to the next, and you want to track those locations, you can just hold down or press the begin key and hit enter. There's a key that actually says begin. It's like midway down the keypad on the right-hand side. If you just press begin, enter, it'll ask you for a new location. This is a tremendously useful feature because if you don't do this, you're having to log out and sign in every time. So if you move from one location to another, as you're cycle counting, as you're reviewing your inventory, as you're just now adding location codes, you may hit the begin and enter key to change that location. Locations can be entered by either the location ID or the name, and you can utilize it by the using that shift key. It's just that key on the right-hand side with the little blue or white arrow inside the blue key. That puts you in shift mode, and when you do that, that little cursor that you see next to choose mode up here, there's a little cursor. That cursor will be a solid square block. So when you go into uppercase mode, you can see it's indicated on that device. Let's move on. So override, append stock, on hand mode. So these are the top 2 items. Operations are the same here. Override stock on hand mode changes or accepts the item's current stock on hand. Append stock on hand mode adds amounts to the item stock on hand. Now, just forewarning on the override stock on hand, if you see 3 on the shelf and it says 3 on the device, enter 3 and hit enter. The reason is because then it will be acknowledged as that you've actually modified or changed or touched or in reality reviewed that item. And you want to make sure you track when it's reviewed. If you don't put a number in and you blow past it, that number has not been confirmed. So it's really important to do that. Just a tip there. In both modes, the quantity field, make any changes in the quantity field, make any changes that you like, then press enter. The RF unit will announce which mode you're in. If you hear quantity, you're in override mode, right? If you hear add to stock, you're in append mode. It's really simple. That's it. The sell field reflects the retail price of the item. So when you hear sell, that means you can actually enter a new retail price. Moving on to build a working PO. So when item is scanned, a voice prompt states order. If an item is overstocked, a voice prompt states overstock. That's a new piece of advice or warning that comes up. In build working PO mode, suggested order is always shown and highlighted in the middle field of the screen. This is new, so it's going to say suggested order. It's going to recommend what it thinks you need based on the information that it has in the inventory. If your inventory stock on hand is not correct, obviously that number is not going to be trusted. But if your stock on hands are good and your information is pretty solid, then you can pretty much guess that that suggested order amount is going to be fairly accurate. Many other fields are also displayed on the screen to help you determine the order amount, like last sale, sold year to date meaning back 365 days from today, not beginning January 1. And then min max, as well as in some cases these user min and max. So what about clearance? So when scanning an item in build working PO mode, the RF unit will display a screen showing the item is on clearance, and the voice prompt announces clearance. So if you're trying to order an item that's on clearance, you don't want to do that. So you definitely want to press enter to resume scanning. To put an item on clearance, you can do that from the override stock on hand and append stock on hand mode. There's just a nice highlighted area that's kind of segregated out, says clearance. If you identify that this item is something that isn't turning, doesn't have a lot of activity, it's going to recommend that you put it on clearance. Now, not everything, you're not going to want to put everything on clearance that it says clearance on, but it's going to at least give you the suggestion, hey, this item you might consider putting on clearance if it's not part of a display or something you can get rid of. Clearance function, here it is, says clearance item right there. Using Paladin Insight Dashboard, clients can set up clearance items. I don't know if you've seen this yet or not, but I did a webinar on this, I think about a month ago, on the clearance feature. And again, in the Paladin Insight Dashboards, if you press any of the magnifying glasses, you'll see a 5th tab called clearance, and that shows you all items within a certain given amount of time that haven't sold. And it also shows you stock on hand. So if you say, hey, I want to look at everything that hasn't sold in 2 years, easy peasy, set it up, just put in 700 whatever days, go ahead and check the item. There's a little checkbox, and it will automatically roll it into the clearance item. It will assign it to a pricing plan. That's a cascading pricing plan that will just go ahead and put it into a sale mode. And you can also have it where it generates a bin tag as well for that sale item. That is a feature that we've added recently that you probably don't have, but it will give you an opportunity to produce that bin tag. All right, there are a couple of different pieces of information. There's a knowledge-based article. There's also a webinar on the topic. And if you're interested more about clearance, you can read those. Low stock on hand, another warning. So low stock on hand is checked. If it's checked in the Paladin configuration, when the quantity and sell price are entered in the RF unit, Paladin recognizes the item as low on stock, and a voice prompt says low on stock. It's just going to tell you, hey, you're missing out opportunity here. Got lost opportunities potentially. Related to low on stock, the RF15 line unit will display suggested order. We saw this in the previous screen here. You have the option to press enter to accept the suggested order, or you can specify a different amount to order in the order field. Shrinkage. Shrinkage reflects unexpected variation in stock on hand values, theft, loss, damage, or misplaced items. They result in a decrease of stock on hand at the next count. If shrinkage is checked in Paladin, when an item is scanned that meets the threshold requirements, a voice prompt states shrinkage. You must press enter to acknowledge the voice prompt was heard to move forward. Now, since we don't have audio in there, I haven't tested this. So if you get to the point where it's showing that an item isn't moving or doing anything, hit the enter key, and it will move forward. So receive PO, this is a non-EDI mode. When an item is scanned in receive PO mode, the following screen appears asking for a non-EDI supplier ID. Enter the numerical ID of the supplier that you want to use. The following additional information is given in the RF 15 line screen, regardless of the number of dynamic prompts enabled. All right, you're going to see GMROI. What a great thing to see right on your screen in the aisle on the device. You're also going to see wasted. It's going to show you all of those items that are wasted and that are basically overstock, that non-performing assets, if you will. The bottom ribbon also has additional information to help you out. Like I mentioned before, last sale date, sold year to date, which is past 365 days, min-max, and also in some cases, user min-max. So here, the GMROI shows keeping an eye on your storage GMR is important, because most store owners just look at the profit margin without considering their inventory investment. It is the most important statistic, and it shows the financial return for every inventory investment dollar spent. So if you spend X amount of dollars and get back X amount of money, after you do the math, that's basically your gross margin, right? It's all about your inventory investment productivity. It's triggered when item overstock is checked in Paladin configuration. It's reflected in the 15 line display as a percentage, as you see here where the blue arrow is pointing. That is the same number that you'll see under GMROI under the inventory screen. And I think it just says ROI on that one, but it is the GMROI, it's just shortened. Waste is determined when investment dollars are tied up in inventory that is not selling, non-performing assets. It's also reflected as a dollar amount and shown as wasted. So these additional things will come up when it's relevant. Some additional enhancements show the information at the bottom, which this just reiterates what I've already mentioned a couple times here. But when you're in override or append mode, you see that additional user min-max. So you can set your own min-maxes in the system if you like. Again, minimum is not the minimum reorder point. It is the new established zero, or the minimum you want on the shelf or on that peg at all times. And then we do the math on top of that. And then max, of course, you can lock in as well. It is not recommended that you do this. However, there are some products and there are some lines that it does make sense to set minimums, like some of your PVC and electrical items. So you don't want to miss that opportunity with the plumbers and or electricians coming in your store when they might need to buy a whole lot of them. So that's just a word to the wise there. And then when you're in building working PO mode, you see the 3 last sale, sold year to date, and min and max. So I was able to squeeze that into about 22 minutes. You want to learn more? There's information about the RF unit, the 15 line functionality. It goes into great detail. It's a great KBA if you want to watch that or look at that and read that. White paper inventory investment, as always, is kind of our go-to when it comes to our philosophy on inventory and investing and managing your inventory wisely by focusing on GMROI. We then have I think it's a webinar on GMROI, why it's so important to your business. And then Paladin Insight clearance functionality is the KBA, and then down below that we have the clearance feature helps you clear out dead stock webinar. So those are the other resources you can go to learn more. I don't have a title for you or a date, but we will have another webinar probably in the next few weeks. We'll make sure that we get the email out to you. Feel free to go in and check our knowledge base and or our webinars for the next one up and coming. All right, so I am willing to take questions if any of you have any questions. I've got this is probably the largest turnout we've ever had, so I really appreciate you guys. I love the fact that you are interested in this. I hope you get a lot of use out of this. We put a lot of thought in this particular feature and in trying to make that RF gun more useful and use some of the technology and that we built into Paladin and meld it with the technology in the tool itself. As always, you can see we've got several articles in retail science. You just get to our Paladin website. Up above it says websites. You can select retail science or webinars or help as well. And in there you can read all about Paladin. You don't have to be on the Paladin system to get into our help portal. You can get into it by portal.paladinpos.com as it shows down below here. I think I'm going to go ahead and let y'all go because there are no questions. And you've been a great audience. Thank you so much. God bless, and until next time, be safe.